Hey, I'm Zach. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Manatee, Florida. I'm a music production major, and I'm a CBL boy.
Okay, you have a gypsy in the house because you've been wandering around. So tell us a little bit about that background and how you're going to wander.
Yeah, I guess I got that wanderlust thing going on. I really like to travel, explore, and adventure. I haven't seen a whole lot of the country. I haven't been farther west than like Wisconsin, but I've definitely like traveled around a fair amount the rest of it since I was like 14 now. Um, got into that like traveler lifestyle, like camping in the woods and stuff, and playing music for money. So I guess that makes me a gypsy.
So
Um,
when you're traveling around, how are you making the money?
um, some people will go around and they'll well, basically, it's a performance thing. Like you busk, and I busk by performing musically. I tried like some fire arts, but there's a bunch of paperwork and like licenses you need for that, so I went with the music thing. The last time I traveled, I supported myself just completely by playing guitar until I decided to stay in Savannah and got like a real job and stuff. So
Now,
basically, guitar.
now, as most gypsies, you have a pet,
Yes.
small horse
Yeah, my
called
road
Sam.
dog.
Yeah. So how did you get Sam?
Um, I decided that I needed a dog and that it was time for me to find one. So I started asking around, looking for one because I definitely wanted to get one from a puppy. I didn't want to like rescue dogs are awesome, but me personally, I wanted to bond with a dog from the youngest age I could. So I spent a few months looking around, asking around, like, hey, you got any puppies? And I was kind of like, more or less, I wasn't too specific about what breed I was looking for, but definitely like what I consider a full size dog, if you will. So one of my friends called me one day when I was at watching my friend's show at this bar, and she's like, "I got puppies, and people want them right now, but I want you to have first pick. But if you want first pick, you gotta have a look at them right now." So she came up there to the bar with a bunch of puppies, and I got first pick, and I got the only male in the litter. And they told me it was a full blood pit bull, but I don't really believe that. I'm pretty sure he's like a pit boxer mix. But I picked him up there. I didn't get to watch the rest of the show because I wasn't going to take him into a really loud bar as a puppy, or probably at all. But yeah, so technically I got my dog at a bar. Um,
Oh, wow.
we've been together ever since.
So traveling, what's the most interesting people you've met?
Probably other travelers. Um, Definitely you can usually pick out a traveler in a crowd, like even if they're not wearing like their pack with their sleeping bag and everything, which is kind of a traveler thing. You have to carry around your pack everywhere unless you're gonna like stow it in some bushes somewhere, which is really sketchy because you tend to lose your things like that. But I don't know. They dress really interestingly, like in a sort of worldly way, and like they have really strange talents. Like you meet some really great talented musicians traveling because they're feeding themselves through music, and people with other skills like poi spinners who like flail around the like the glow sticks or the flaming things, and magicians and just all kinds of strange gypsy skills. And travelers always are really they're really happy to tell you their story usually. Not all of them, but a lot of them are just really happy to share their experience with you because they kind of want to like share the lifestyle because they're really into it. Um,
So what about your family growing up? Are you connected with your family or not?
Um, Probably the only people that I still talk to in my family would be my mother and my younger brother. And I recently didn't meet, but came into contact with my older brother, like literally this year. Um, so I still talk to them, but I really don't talk to anyone else in my family. Um, I still have my dad's phone number and everything, but I'll send like a Facebook message every now and then. We don't really talk very much. He wasn't really in my life until I was like 14 or 15. It's when I met him in person for the first time. Um, we kind of had a falling out what with things that went on when I was like 14 or 15, and they were trying to make me do all these things that were not um, very good for what I was trying to do for my life, like move to other states and bad schools and stuff that I just wasn't into. And we didn't really talk. He had this thing where he wanted to kind of live vicariously through me for the mistakes that he made, and I wasn't into that. Everyone else in my family, I don't really talk to them anymore. Um, some of them have like wandered off into the West and like done well for themselves, and they've kind of like separated themselves from the family. I can give you a few good reasons that may be their reasons. I don't know. My parents had some substance abuse issues that kind of affected me. Like I ended up at, I think, like 1 year old, I ended up in my mom, knowing that I would be in better care there, just went to a judge and was like, hey, I'm gonna give custody to these guys, and she like signed. She still retains motherly rights, but she gave them like all the rights she could. So I grew up with my grandparents, and they both passed away now. So can't talk to them much anymore. But
Well, if they both passed away, I'm sure you wouldn't talk to them very much.
sometimes.
But when did you start wandering? I mean, when did you leave home?
Basically when I was 14, and I decided like, hey, I was in a really good school that I don't know how there was such a good school in this like kind of rural country town that I grew up in, but there was a really good school there, and I had some really good things going for me. I was taking like college courses and stuff, and I found a really good martial arts studio, and just basically all the things that I wanted to do just happened to maybe by synchronicity be there for me. But then my aunt and my father stepped in and had their own little plans and things. And I just wasn't into the area where I had to move, and I wasn't into the schools there. They were, even like the prep school that I went to, it was a DuPont school up in Delaware. It was supposed to be like a really good school, like a college prep school. It was, the students there weren't made to have the same sort of respect that I grew up with living in the country. Like you're not a dick to your teacher, and you don't talk back, and you don't cause problems. But like up there, it was just kind of really ghetto. And even the classes that weren't ghetto, like up there, my English teacher had a doctorate in English. I don't know how you can suffer through getting a doctorate in English, but he did. I just didn't like it. They didn't have anything that was good for me, and my aunt didn't approve of my lifestyle. Like I got really good grades, and I think I did really well for myself, but she didn't approve of my lifestyle because like I dressed pretty like gothic back then, and had a bunch of piercings and stuff, and I don't know, I just wasn't into it. So I was like, well, the school is not really doing anything for me. Like I could get a GED and it would be the same thing because I don't have all the extra awesome stuff that I had back home, like the ROTC and the health academy and all that stuff. The martial arts there were all like taekwondo and stuff that I'm really not into. So I was like, well, I'm going to go traveling for a while. So I took off traveling a little while. I traveled a little bit around New York, mostly in like country areas, and I traveled around Philadelphia a little bit. Philadelphia is a beautiful place,
I
by
was
the way.
14 years old.
Yeah.
Weren't you scared hitting that at that age?
No, I think I had like 7 different knives on me or something. I don't know. I was ballsy. I was an arrogant kid. I was just like, I'm gonna be fine. I didn't do anything illegal, really, or irresponsible. So like, I wasn't gonna get arrested, and I wasn't gonna like put myself in a bad situation. So I figured I could handle it, which I suppose in retrospect, and like even in the present, traveling is a really dangerous thing, especially in the present. It's not the safest thing, but I guess if you have the street smarts, you know what to avoid and how to handle yourself. So I traveled around for a little bit then, and then my mother contacted me, and I'd only spent like a couple summers with my mother before that. She was like, hey, do you want to come live with me? So after some traveling for a year or so, I took off and went to Wisconsin, and I lived with my mother for some time and got to know her, and that was a cool experience. But eventually it became clear that our relationship wasn't really like a mother-son sort of thing. It was more like a friend sort of thing. And she had some substance abuse issues still going on, and while she handled herself really well, she wasn't the most responsible parent. And where I was living in Racine, Wisconsin is is definitely the biggest, pardon my French, but shithole in the world, right between Milwaukee and Chicago. It's a pretty rough place, and there's definitely no opportunities or anything for me there. So some traveler friends came up to there to see me, and ended up leaving with them and traveling a little bit. And I traveled down to Port St. Lucie and met my grandparents on my father's side for the first time, and ended up traveling around Florida a little bit. Like I'd always lived in Florida, but I hadn't really traveled around all of it. It's a big state. And then eventually I settled back down in my hometown. I always end up going back there. I think this is like the fifth or sixth time I've come back here after traveling or moving somewhere.
Wow. Now, how did you travel around? Did you ride the rails or?
The last time I traveled by, no, I'm not a train hopper. That's dangerous, especially with a dog. I would never get on a
Oh,
train with
yeah.
my dog. I'm not getting arrested and having my dog put in some pound or something. Which my dog kind of kept me in pretty good check. Like I made sure I didn't do anything that was going to get me arrested or in a bad situation, because like I had to look out for my dog, and that just wasn't happening. So no, I mostly hitchhiked. So every once in a while, you got to kind of turn down some rides for like when you're traveling. You get a good sense of reading people and like what they're into, and some rides are just it's not something you want. But most of the people that'll stop and pick you up are really cool, and like they'll help you out. They give you some money or some cigarettes or whatever if you're lacking in anything. And though some people have really gone out of their way to give me and my traveler friends like rides somewhere. They're like, oh, I'm going this way, but like I guess I'll go over here and like drop you off. And I mean, just hitchhiking has been our main mode of transportation. The last time we took a car up there, we came by a car last minute, but that guy was not the best selection of traveler friends, and he ended up going crazy, so we lost that car. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's a little bit about Zach. To find out more about him, watch him on the site.